get the old tap on the shoulder, and after all my career up till then, I guess it didn't count for much because they basically were like, okay, well, we got to lay you off, and you got HR in the room and giving you your kind of severance agreement, and you're like, okay. And so I'm sitting there packing up my stuff. I got a security guard there watching me.
That's crazy to me.
Like
that's
so
still
fucked up.
So crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like that whole process. Like it's just.
I don't know if you've ever.
I've never experienced it. I just always heard it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I remember I told you before. I worked for my dad in high school.
Yeah.
I got fired my junior year, and then I've never worked for anybody besides myself since.
Okay.
So
learned a lesson from that.
So yeah, I told my dad, I was like, I'll never let somebody control my fate because this is ridiculous. Yeah. So that was just me though.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I see that, I'm like, there's no way. You got somebody that's done all this for the brand, that's created all this, that's built something that's generated all this money, all these different things, and you got the security guard right down your neck, like all this stuff. Like, come on, like, you kidding me? So we got OG Drake out here. We'll get an explanation for OG Drake. But you've been at Nike for how many years?
37 years.
37
just
years.
Left the swoosh at the end of January of this year.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Chilling.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a wild ride.
Enjoying that. So we're going to talk about the journey of obviously being there because that was a hefty portion of your life, but also before there. I like the origin story as well.
Yeah.
And then nitty gritty and anything in between and off topic and all the other stuff along the way.
Dirty secrets.
We'll see how everything goes, right?
Yeah,
so,
sounds good.
I need you to kick it all the way back.
Okay.
Way back.
Oh, geez.
OG days.
Oh, God.
Man, was Nike even around when you were in middle school?
Okay, so just a little point of reference for everybody. Yeah, I grew up in Oregon. I was born in Portland, Oregon. Lived all around Oregon growing up. And then we settled in Tigard, went to Tigard High School.
Okay.
And before I was playing hoops, but I was a scrawny little guy that was the little point guard and good player, but it took me a while to like grow. But basically, I was wearing Chuck Taylors.
Okay.
This is like, mid 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And then Nike came along and I got my first pair of Bruins. That was my first pair of Nike basketball shoes. And definitely an upgrade from the Chuck.
And that was in high school?
Yeah, that was like, junior high, and I made the freshman team.
Okay.
But then I got cut the next year. But I always grew up with a basketball court in the driveway, in over the garage and stuff. And my brother and I always playing hoops and stuff. So that was my first love. But also started playing soccer because. It was clear I wasn't getting to be tall enough to play hoops, and started getting into soccer at that time. And so Nike was around. Obviously, they started in '72, but I also I loved drawing and loved art and loved drawing my beloved Trailblazers. And then the Timbers came to town in '77.
Really? It was that long ago?
Yeah.
Dang.
The original ones. And
did they leave and come back?
Well, that was in the old NASL, North American Soccer League, and then that went under, and then they kind of reappeared in some other leagues until finally they joined the MLS, the new Major League Soccer, in I think it was like 2012 or something like that.
Because that's what I'm like. I feel like I remember the Timbers as more of like a later in life type thing. Yeah. Even for myself, like growing up in Portland, like I don't remember like trying to go to Timbers games and then hearing that that was by the time I was in college. Yeah. Then I was like, okay, Timbers, right? Yeah. So I didn't know that they were like rooted that far back.
Yeah, in the first year they were an expansion team. They went to the finals, to the Soccer Cup, and I think they lost that one. But I was hooked on soccer, playing it, and then going to the Timbers games, and then obviously the '77 was a big year because the Blazers won the title with Bill Walton and Maurice Lucas and all those guys. And so, a great time was just to be a Blazer fan and, to be an artist and loving sport. And so I ended up going to Portland State University, got a fine art degree, and then luckily got on at Nike in '86 as a freelancer. and then started there officially in 1987.
Okay, so we got the quick short version.
Yeah.
Now, take me back a little bit farther. So,
Sure.
when you got your first pair of shoes, what was the family household dynamic? Did you know much about finances at the time? Were you in a situation where you're like, I got to figure this out myself? Like, where were you at mentally as a young kid? Because some people have to figure it out themselves. Some people have their parents take care of it. Some people don't have the lights on. They, you know, there's a lot of different scenarios.
All right, we're gonna get into that. Okay. Yeah. No, it's not anything too tragic. I was pretty fortunate. You know, grew up. My dad was a teacher. My mom worked in the schools.
Okay.
We weren't poor, but you know, we were
Solid.
like low middle class kind of thing. And but when I was going to college, you know, I was studying fine art, and I just loved painting and stuff. But got to the point where I realized that, you know, this is going to be tough to make a career as a fine artist selling paintings in galleries and stuff. And so I started to transition at the last couple terms into more graphic design and starting to get into the computer aspect of it, and just learning about typography and being a graphic designer. And so then when I got hired on at Nike, then it was like, okay, this is a career. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, who knew back then that there was a career as a graphic designer working in apparel, designing, you know, graphics for apparel. And so basically when I got on there, I was just learning on the job to the craft of being a graphic designer, and you know, loving every minute of it. And the people there were amazing, just bringing me on. And yeah, that was my kind of situation. But I always kid my old boss, who actually just retired the same time I did, Angela Snow. But I always tease her because she didn't have a head count. So I was a freelancer for like the first year, just trying to get in. And I was going, I worked at this restaurant in the evenings because I didn't know.
Okay.
You know, you don't know if this is going to catch on. I mean, at that time, you know, there was like only about 10 of us in the original Nike art department, and she didn't have a position open for a while. So, you know, I was like, well, who knows if this is going to be a permanent thing. But luckily she was able to get a position eventually, and I got hired on in August of 87. And so, yeah, the rest is history.
87, okay. So
where were you in 87?
Man, I wasn't even thought of yet.
Where was your dad?
My dad was in high school at the time.
Is he a Grant too?
He's grandpa now, yeah.
No, was he at Grant?
He went to Jeff. Yeah.
Jefferson?
Yeah, he went to Jeff, I went to Grant.
Okay.
And then my mom, she was at Lincoln and Jeff because of dance. They have the dance program there. So she would be back and forth.
But you're original Portlander too.
Yeah, OG.
Okay,
baby.
all right, good. Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
So, did you have a car? I know you're into cars. Tell me about the OG car. What was your first car?
We don't need to go there, man. I think the first one I had that was my own car that I bought when I wasn't, you know, using my parents' car was a Honda Accord.
Let's go.
Like a blue Honda Accord.
Me too. That was my first car.
80, whatever that was, like late 70s or whatever.
I had an 89 Honda Accord, a blue two-door.
I think, I don't know if mine was two. They must have been two-door.
Remember the two-door ones that were kind of boxy?
See, I think that's what I had.
That's funny.
Until the what's it called? The water pump broke when I was driving, I think on Highway 99, and yeah, I had to get rid of that one.
Oh, that's comedy. Anyway, okay.
So, you know, we all humble beginnings, right?
For sure. Definitely. Mine got totaled after I tore my ACL right after I got my license. Or no, I tore my ACL right before I got my license, and then I had my surgery 2 weeks after I got my license. So when I could fully drive my car, I couldn't even really drive. But that 2 weeks of me being able to drive when I got my license, my car got T-boned and totaled during that time.
See.
So then I got a new car after I came out of my ACL surgery my sophomore year. And then I ended up getting a white Honda Accord, a 2001 Honda Accord. Okay. So it wasn't a car that was older than me. And then that was that was history from there, because it was like, remember that Drake song? The Drake song, Started from the Bottom, Now We're Here. Yeah, everybody used to be like, started with the Honda, now we're here. Like, that was my thing.
See, well, I mean, they were reliable cars, and they were affordable, and yeah, they were the right car at the time. But
yeah, that was like a very iconic car in high school for me, because it was a 4-door Honda. I put the TVs in the back. I had one in the front, the lights underneath it, like just literally doing dumb stuff to the car for fun. Because I mean, what else do I do with my money? I was buying shoes and doing stuff to my car. Like that was all I could do at the time. Okay, so with the process of choosing schools, how did that go from leaving high school going into college?
Oh, that's an interesting story too, because you know, my dad was a University of Oregon alum, and so we were a Duck family always, and so I went to U of O my freshman year and loved it, but oh man, that's where I learned about, you know, quarter bounce and drinking and all the drinking games and malt liquor and lots of hangovers and so many distractions. And, you know, I loved it, but at the same time, I was just like, oh boy, if I continue here, I'm going to really have to like crack down and focus because, you know, just, you know, the girls, the parties, the fun times sometimes got in the way of the studies. And so I ended up staying there for the first year. And then I was like, you know, I think I'll move back home, go to Portland State, and enroll in their art program there, and so I went there and finished and got my degree there.
Do you think that was like a decision that you made based off of your parents being in the school system like early, and then kind of like put this like subtle, like, I don't know what you want to call it, small voice in your head like, oh, I need to focus on my studies?
Well, when I think I was in danger of flunking out of one of the classes I took, getting a D or an F in it. And I was kind of like a harsh wake up and a little crossroads where you're going, okay, you know, I probably, this has been fun, but, you know, I'd love to stay here the rest of the time. But I was just thought, you know, and save money, room and board. I could move home with the parents, and luckily, you know, had a good relationship with them at the time, and so that just seemed like a better fit for me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So okay, now you decided to come back. What's the situation? You stay? They have on-campus living over there?
No. Well, they might have some.
Maybe now,
but not.
So did you get your own spot? Did you commute from home?
Yeah. The old, I drive to the transit center, take TriMet down from Tigard down into Barber Boulevard into Portland State. So yeah, it was fine. I loved it. And I still have, I've reached back out to Portland State since then, you know, 30 years later or whatever, and reestablished kind of connections with their faculty and have just a lot of love for Portland State Vikings.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Okay, so during that time, I kind of had this, I don't know if I want to call it similar awakening within college, but just kind of like, I was doing all right. I was doing enough to get by, and then my grades were eligible through the NCAA clearinghouse for football, but not through the school because I was at a private university. And because of that, they had a higher GPA requirement to play sports. Okay. So I didn't realize that, and then I kind of shot myself in the foot, and I had to redshirt my sophomore year because I was doing enough to get by. And I knew I could do better, but I didn't like care as much. And I was like, damn, now I got a red shirt. So then all that stuff happened. So I was like, now I got to lock in, get my grades together, and get everything back on track. So with that process, for the people that are trying to get their stuff back on track, whether it's for grades or for just stuff in life, what do you think you would say to somebody that's in that kind of pickle situation and they're moving towards the right direction, just to, you know, give them some more hope or keep them on track?
Oh boy, yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've mentored loads of young designers and young people and students over the years. Yeah, I guess it's a tough one because, you know, you don't want to just be giving advice and not knowing their situation. And so I just try to listen and see where they're at, and then just like be encouraging and, you know, go with your gut, go with what's right for you. And if you're in, you know, specifically into design is kind of my reference point, is like, you know, if you got the talent and you have the drive and the passion, and then that translates to anything you're into, just, you know, continue to go for it. The old just do it mantra, like, you know, keep pushing it. And, you know, we'll see if there's opportunities in that field that you're interested in. And if not, just keep banging away on it.
Yo, DNA fam, I know you guys are into sneakers, so I'm going to assume that you're into investing as well, which means you're probably also interested in leveling up your life. I think you definitely need to check this out. I just launched my DNA show community on School, and it's totally free to join, by the way. Inside, I've dropped my entire Hobby to Hustle program. It used to be $99 a month, and I've helped tons of people turn their passions into profit with this course. And now I want to give it away 100% free just for the community members. This is going to be a place where sneakerheads can connect, share game, and grow together. So don't wait, hit the link down below in the description to get instant access to the Hobby to Hustle course today. And I'll see you guys on the inside so we can run it up.
I don't know.
No, yeah, it makes sense too. Like even from for me, the content creator side, right? Like making videos, TikToks and Instagram, and Snapchat and Facebook, and like it's just so much going on. You're like, bro, am I just like beating at a dead wall? What's going on here? And then something finally breaks through, but like you have to keep pushing through it, because I promise you it's over there on the other side. But sometimes you're just like, I don't know if this is gonna ever work. And you got to get through that process. So you come to senior year now, and you are, how is this like application process work? How does this, did you like see this in a newspaper? Was it a friend reference? Like how did this even come about?
God, this is like the olden days, huh? Yeah, because no internet, of course, and we'd get the Oregonian newspaper or whatever, and I'd go to the want ads, the classifieds, and you'd be applying for jobs that anything that said design or art or whatever. And I did apply for a job at Nike, and I think it was like a product management position, or product developer. They're all terms that I had no clue what those words actually meant, because I didn't know that industry. But I applied, and I got a rejection letter, which I have posted on Instagram. It's kind of an iconic piece, because it just basically says, thank you for your, it's like hand typed. Right. It has the Nike logo, the old Futura on top, and it's written, hand signed by an HR person. And basically saying, thank you for your interest. We don't have a job that matches your qualifications, blah, blah, blah. It was super nice. But come to find out, the behind the scenes, with my resume that was talking about my interest in art, it managed to get its way over to Angela, and she brought me in for an interview. And back in the day, you had these big leather portfolios with the handle, like an art portfolio. And it was all, just for that interview, I came in and I had a bunch of my artwork from school, but then I also took the time to take the initiative, and I started doing some what I thought would be kind of cool Nike t-shirts. And so I walked in there and showed that, and she just could see, I think, just kind of the art talent, and then clearly I had a love for sports. So art, sport, and she took a chance and brought me in as a freelancer. But the first year, 9 months, I was basically working on catalog layouts. So apparel, the old apparel catalogs where you have all these shirts lined up and shorts. And so we had to have somebody do that. And so I would be working with the team to grab all the line art and lay out those catalogs, and then and get those produced. We would have them printed down in like LA, and I go down there for the press check. So I learned that kind of whole art of doing catalog work. But then gradually I started working on t-shirts, and then I started working on Force Flight Air Jordan.
So damn, that's just crazy even thinking about like the process of creation is so different then to now. Like we could just hop on a computer, type in a prompt on AI or something, and it's just like
Chat GPT.
You know what I'm saying? Like you might have had to been like cutting stuff out, putting it on the thing, lining it up, printing it, and then like recopying it and everything. Like there's a whole different creative process of that.
I mean, we can go down this rabbit hole. I don't know how much time you have.
But, we all day. Whenever on your schedule.
But we had a dark room, and basically the process was you'd have they had a couple artists that would pin up on the wall a garment, like a hoodie sitting there pinned on the wall, and they would hand draw it with a light table, rapidograph pins, French curves, like the whole craft of drawing by hand before computers. And they would draw those, and then I need 12 of those because we're doing 12 colorways. So we'd go in the dark room and take their line art, and it was drawn at like 200%. We'd scale it down, and we'd use the camera in there and the film processor to create 12 of those line art. And then once they were coming out of the film processor, we would cut them out and lay them out on a blueprint kind of page.
And that's what I kind of
that was how it was before. And then gradually we started getting the Apple computers like in the about 88, 89 and starting to learn, the Macintosh and floppy disks and that whole thing. But there's like a whole different era before the computers really started cranking and the internet came along.
So when that all came about and you guys got the new computers and you got all this stuff, like, was it did they give you guys like tutorials on how to use them, or like how did that go? Because there wasn't, again, YouTube where you could just go and learn how to edit on this thing, or like you just kind of like pushing buttons trying to figure it out. Like
pretty much, we're all just in there trying to learn ourselves. But again, before then, like if we wanted to lay out type, that says, Nike football or Nike basketball, and we wanted to select a font, we'd go to the art store.
Okay.
You've probably seen those lithograph kind of like at fonts,
Michael's
rub-on fonts, right? Yeah. And so there's a whole art form as being a graphic designer to lay out type and have it kerned and spaced exactly how you want it. And if you had to do an arch, you're just kind of like eyeballing it and measuring it, so you're learning all that. So when we got the first Mac computers, it was like, oh my God, it had, 15 fonts to choose from.
Right.
And you could do, stretch the type, and you could make it bold, you could make it italicized and all that kind of stuff. So, we were learning, and I think at the time we had Freehand was one of the applications. We started getting Illustrator, was the Adobe product. But we were all just kind of trial and error and learning it. But previous to that, it was all going to the art store, getting some markers, all that kind of stuff.
So something that could take you a week to do could now take you maybe a day.
Yeah, we'd have to go drive to the art store, pick up the stuff, come back, and it's like, oh shoot, and then a lot of mistakes and a lot of just figuring it out. But
or like you send it in, and then the next group is like approving it, and they're like, make this change, and you're like, wait, what? I need to make a change.
For sure. Yeah. Oh,
that's crazy to even think. Like that's so cool. Like for me, from the creative process to see all that stuff, and I use Adobe, I use all these things now, and even seeing the evolution of it from 2010, 2012 when I was using it then to now, it's crazy how much it's evolved. But it's so interesting seeing that. So you're definitely 100% or very hip to how everything functions still to this day with all the new software and all the stuff.
I'm still pretty proficient. I use Illustrator on a daily basis. Photoshop, I've always used it for certain things. I'm not an expert retoucher or anything. But yeah, you got to stay relevant. Continue to use it.
That right there alone is just so dope to like hear. Because like, again, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to see the origin of all that creation and process like that. But to be a part of that whole journey and the design, let alone for the brand and all the other stuff, but just for your own creative process and that evolution, like I have to applaud that too. You know what I'm saying? Because that's crazy.
There's a documentary on Netflix waiting to be done of just about that whole time period of not just Nike, but just art and design.
Yeah.
And how that evolution happened from the original kind of craft of handmade stuff to the onset of computers. Yeah.
So that was happening your first year? Or was that
first couple of years learning on the job,
So you're doing that. So after the first year, then you get brought on.
Yep.
Who's the gang that you're kind of rocking with? Who's the designers? Who's the people like the people that are around this time? Because a lot of people again don't know. Everybody knows the classic like Tinker, Phil Knight, stuff like that. But like, who's these other iconic people that were around during this time?
Okay, well, good question. So at that time, the Nike campus wasn't there. And so apparel was located at this building, this area called Creekside in Beaverton.
Okay.
And then footwear was kind of around the corner, about a mile and a half away at Nimbus, which was another street in Beaverton. And then the headquarters were on Allen Boulevard, where the corporate office was. And so at the time, I was working in apparel, and I was working on Flight and Force and Air Jordan apparel. And Tom Andrich, I don't know, I think he was. You've maybe met him before. He was doing all of the McEnroe Challenge Court graphics.
Okay.
He did the original, like, all the Agassi stuff. Yeah, I came last year, yeah.
But he was there too?
Or, he wasn't there this time.
No, I
at
mean
the
last year.
gathering. Yeah, he was there.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Stock
Yep.
Yeah, and so
I'm like, that's starting to sound familiar. Yeah. I remember
so
that.
he look him up. I mean, Tom Andrich, amazing designer. He did the original Nike International logo and a lot of those graphics. Bollettieri, Tennis Academy, on, and then he became known for all the Andre Agassi, the neon stuff, and all those graphics back in the day, Challenge Court, and so he was doing tennis. Jen Stady, who's still in Portland, has her own print company. She was working on apparel as well.
Okay.
Like I said, Angela Snow was the art director for the art department. We had Randy Hamer, who left Nike, I don't know, in the early 90s, but he was working on some of the football stuff, the early football apparel.
Sorry. Make sure we have a good clarification, because I'm football, American football.
Sorry, you're American football.
You're
we
football.
Yeah, I'll make sure I say soccer. But
okay.
Yeah, because at the time we had some agreements with CLCC or whatever, CLC, the NCAA contracts. So, they were doing like Duke and North Carolina and different American football sweatshirts and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that was late 80s. And then they started asking me to work on Nike Premier Soccer, because we were starting to get into the soccer world, and they asked me because I worked on soccer, or I grew up playing soccer, so it was a natural. But I guess my claim to fame was they were needing a new Flight logo.
Okay.
If you want to talk about.
Today's partner is Sneaker Throne. They have multiple options when it comes to durable and high quality display cases. One of my personal favorites is the drop side display case. I'm a size 13 and I can easily fit my shoes inside of here, and I have hundreds of these stacked throughout my rooms to display my sneakers. When it comes to the cases in particular, you have 4 different color options: clear, black, white, and red. So if you're looking at grabbing one of these for yourself or for someone else, make sure you guys check out sneakerthrone.com, and don't forget to use the discount code DNA Show at checkout for 10% off for all your orders.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for that. So what year was that happening?
About 88, 89.
So this is you started working with Jordan Brand Apparel too at that same kind of time?
It wasn't Jordan Brand.
Or whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So they had Jordan, Force, and Flight were the 3 collections, but you'd see Jordan, like the Jumpman with Flight below it, like script. And so they're like, okay, well, it's time to really kind of create these 3 strong silos, and then we need a Flight logo. And so I started just thinking about aviation, and I brought a little prop here.
You were assigned to this, or you kind of just like started messing around?
Well, they had me work on it, as well as somebody from Brand. Basically, there was a guy from Brand that also was asked to work on it, and my inspiration was aviation and aeronautics and just the whole idea of speed and power. And so I started looking at, back then, the Concorde plane was traveling to Europe, taking people over there, the stealth bomber, and there's also the Nighthawk. And so I just saw this triangular shape everywhere in aviation. Right. And so that's where it basically started. I just looked at that angle and then just kind of knocked out the letters of the F from that. And they loved it. And next thing you know, that was the new Flight logo. So then I started working on applying it to the apparel, and then sent it over to the guys in footwear, and they started putting on all those early Flight shoes in the late 80s, early 90s.
Isn't it kind of cool to like design something and not even realize like the legacy that it will create? The memories that people will have because of the logo, the stories that will come. There's over 1 million stories from different consumers, just from the logo, the impact that it's had on their life, and the shoe or whatever it may be, the shirt that they got, whatever it was. And you're like, oh, this might be cool. I like this. This is dope. Like,
Well, and the thing, about Nike, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but what comes to mind is, we have a lengthy internal process. So, it took a lot of people to weigh in on this and to approve it and for it to finally, come to market. But it's so exciting and gratifying to see that in the market and on hoodies, on t-shirts, on, Scottie Pippen's footwear, whatever. But it wasn't until years later with the social media and the internet that you really found out about its impact. Like, I meet people at these sneaker gatherings where I forget the guy's name. He's got it tattooed on his calf.
Right.
And other people are like, yeah, I used to draw that on my peachy or on my notebook when I was in school over and over. I loved it. And so you just hear these stories and it gives me chills right now just thinking about, you don't have this, you don't know the impact that you're going to have. But it also just goes back to, I mean, sorry, my language.
Oh, you're good. We're all grown men here.
Okay. I mean, who knew? I mean, to work for a company like Nike, a brand like we are and we were or still are, that's not many designers or artists have that opportunity to get that amount of exposure worldwide. Because most of you, you might work on a design and it's seen by your certain audience, whatever, but everything just goes worldwide here. So it's pretty amazing.
So that brings me on to the next question. You're in this, there's this, I don't know how you explain it. There's like selfishness, wanting, I don't know if it's the word approval. I don't know what it is. There's this like weird position, right? Like you're in the late 80s, early 90s. You're seeing this stuff everywhere and you're like, I did that. Like, I wish people knew I did that. Or is it like, this is dope. It's fine. Nobody needs to know. Because there's so many different people that live in different parts of their life that could have that type of thing that they create. And they kind of go one or the other ways. They want the notoriety. They want the stuff where they're like, let me be behind the scenes. I don't want nobody to know who I am. I just want to have a great product. So there's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it battling two demons or whatever it is, but this happens to a lot of different aspects in life. Whether you got a video going viral online, you do great at work, you scored a touchdown last night on Friday Night Lights in high school, whatever it may be, right? So you're definitely in that very interesting position. How did you feel then, and then how do you feel now?
No, it's a perceptive question because, it's that kind of balance of your own ego and also just, it's like, hey, it's fine. I don't need the limelight. I know I did a good job. My friends and family know, like they'd go to the Nike store and be proud because they bought a t-shirt I designed or some shoes that I worked on or something. And so, at that point in time, it was just like, very narrow, and credit to Nike. I mean, we've got probably one of the largest design studios in the world. And, very few of them are known, besides a Tinker or a few others because of, all the amazing products, like that he worked on and a few other basketball designers. But for the most part, we designers are representing the greater brand, and we know it takes a village. It's developers and product managers and engineers and people in the factories. And so we know it just takes a huge team.
Like it's not just you.
Not just you. Yeah. And so when you get all this through the approval process and all our internal reviews, we're all kind of holding hands like we did it together. So it's not about me and what I did, even though inside hey, I created that from kind of from nothing. But you also know it took a lot of collaboration, a lot of hard work to get it out the door, to get it at retail. And so you kind of have to check your ego at the door and just go, I did this for this team, for this club, for this athlete, and I did right by them, and that's the satisfaction. It's not about like, getting the pat on the back, but you do good work and years later then you find out that it meant something to people, and that's, fast forward to some of the Nike football, soccer stuff I worked on. It's very gratifying knowing that it kind of stood the test of time. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of people can learn from that just because again, like you said, it is a team effort, and we don't credit or appreciate people as much as, I'm not saying everybody, but I see it happen a lot where sometimes people don't credit or appreciate the people around them that help them even stay inspired to work on something, or gave them a small nugget 7 years ago that helped the inspiration of this design or whatever. Like, all those pieces come together to build up to that thing as well. And we always, like you said, me. It could be that, or it's like, okay, hold on, like, who is a part of this process? All these other things. Like, we did this together. That's like, I'm sitting down in here with you. I got these lights on. It could look like, oh, it's just DJ doing all this stuff, right? But I got to shout out to my editor. I got to shout out to my wife, my mom, my dad, my people, my homies. They believed in me. They helped me. They taught me about lighting, taught me about audio. Like, it didn't get here by itself. Like, I had to do all these things just to get into this seat right here to be able to get to this point. So I feel what you're saying. Like, I like that.
No, and you have to have a certain level of humility, and you're proud of what you did, but you recognize that it's not, especially working for a huge brand. It's not about getting your name out there. So it's just doing good work, and then move on to the next project. By the time this stuff hits retail, you've already designed the next collection.
Right. Yep. Did you want to just like own everything that was created with your design on it initially, or is it kind of like, I'll just take a couple things, I'm good? Like,
well, I probably didn't grab as much stuff as I wanted to, because I'll see years later stuff that's posted on the internet, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. I worked on that. But I, be honest, I've been on eBay buying up stuff because I'm like, oh shit, there's, here's I didn't get this shirt that I worked on, back in the day, this Jordan shirt, and, things kind of ragtag, got paint on it, but, I was just like, oh, I need to have that. But back in the day, I'd pick up a few things, but not as much as I should have.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we hear that from a lot of people, like, you didn't know what it was going to become. You didn't know about this whole, like, collector thing and, like, all the stuff that was going on with that element of it, to say, like, oh, I should keep an extra pair or do all these things. It was just kind of like, you live your life, you do your work, you keep it pushing. Like, I could understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what did you keep then that you still have to this day?
Well, outside of the sneaker world and the Flight logo, I'm probably best known for my work in soccer, and so
you definitely got a lot of soccer.
They sent me over to Europe in 1990. Our Nike office was outside of Frankfurt in Germany. And we were sharing headquarters with the Nike Germany folks, and we were there for a year, and then we moved to outside Amsterdam, where the Nike's European headquarters are today. But when I arrived over there, I knew soccer a little bit from the Timbers, but I had no exposure to what's today like the Premier League and Bundesliga and all these kind of European clubs. I was kind of in the dark about it, but I'd been trained to be a graphic designer at Nike and understood kind of what our goal was in working with these clubs. But I arrived in Germany and started working on Borussia Dortmund, and we had PSG, Paris Saint-Germain at the time, and
they've done a lot of good stuff now too.
And so luckily, we had great relationships with those clubs, and so I was on the ground just learning about Europe, learning about European football, and trying to kind of blend what we knew as a brand and what we were trying to do as far as our concepts and direction, and align that with what these clubs are looking for. But those I spent, supposed to be a 2-year expat assignment, and I got there in 1990, and they didn't have anybody to backfill me, and so basically it ended up being a 6-year assignment living in Europe and learning all about the world of football. I know you were just over there earlier this summer, and it's such a kind of a culture shock, but also just amazing place, and you find out quickly that it's not like the United States. Germany is totally different culture than Holland or Italy. Each one of those countries has centuries of traditions. I mean, just everything's felt old there because castles around the corner and amazing churches and all that stuff. But it was amazing 6 years to learn just about the art of designing football kits.
So that it brought two different things to my mind. First, that's super dope, but I guess that's the third thing. First, that's just super cool to do, right?
Yeah.
But when I was out there, they was priding themselves in not using AC in certain places, certain cars, and I'm like, bro, it's
still to this day.
Like,
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I'm only imagining what it was like in 1999, being out there with no AC in certain situations. Like, was it worse? It had to be worse.
Oh, well, yeah, Paris. Probably to this day. I mean, a lot of the hotels we stayed at, no AC.
That's crazy.
Hot as you know what
like
during
why?
the summer, and yeah, I mean, you know, you just get used to certain things. I mean, we'd go to the bakery in we lived in a little town outside Frankfurt in Germany, and get you'd have to go to the bakery and get bread, and 2 days later it was moldy. You know, it was like, you know, 3 ingredients in it or whatever, no preservatives. And so, you know, just a lot of things you had to kind of get used to. When I arrived, they said, here's your house. You know, they provided for us, but it was empty. Like no closets, nothing. Here's your IKEA card. Go to IKEA. We've all done the whole IKEA building stuff. Yeah. But imagine, you know, not only you're taking on this huge new job at Nike, but in the evenings when you get home from work and on the weekends, you got that little Allen wrench and you're building wardrobes. And I mean, you had to buy everything from like, you know, silverware to towels and rugs and plant. I mean, you had
that's out of your pocket?
No, it was paid for by Nike.
But you still got to go do all that labor.
I got to go to IKEA and, you know, fill up those carts with basically. And so the first, you know, month is just like putting together a house.
And it's hot.
And it was, well, I don't know what time of year it was, but it was hot. You know, like, because you put something together, you're missing something, and you got to bring it back to IKEA. You know, so anyway, those are the kind of learning things that you had to survive. But you know, it made me who I am today. Right?
Character builder.
Character builder. Yeah.
Okay, so that was one thing I was thinking of, and then the other thing I was thinking of was like the family dynamic. Like, how does this work? You say you got kids and all that stuff. I don't know. Like, how many kids you got?
Well, I got my kid lives with me today, Harrison, who's my stepson.
Okay.
But I was married at the time. I had 3 young kids.
So did everybody move?
Yeah.
Together?
Oh, yeah.
How did they feel about the move?
We were on it.
They were just like, let's do it.
Who wouldn't want to be an expat, move to Europe, and be taken care of?
That's cool.
Have a company house, a company car. You know, at the time, it was like, sure.
That's cool. Okay. So, of course, everybody was pretty much on board, the kids. Because I even like living in Portland, like my dad wanted to move to a different house. And we were like, no. And it wasn't even
still in Portland.
Yeah. Still in the same city. And we're like, no way.
Well, they were little at the time.
Yeah.
So,
but we were little too. We were little too. But apparently we had a say because we stayed.
You must have had a strong point of view even when you were young.
Put my foot down.
Wait, how many brothers and sisters?
I got a little sister.
Okay. Yeah. But you guys were like, no, we ain't even moving out of the school district.
No way.
Wow, that's powerful. Okay.
So, that's why I was asking because I just know for us it was like different. And I was like, I couldn't.
No, I think we were ready.
Like,
you know, you got to be ready for an adventure. But, you know, obviously, you know, if, I don't know, maybe I don't know how you guys were, if you were offered, if they said, hey, you're going to move to Paris or you're going to move to Amsterdam, you know, you might go, Whereas it's like, oh, you're going to move, over to, Southeast Division or whatever.
Right.
You're like, oh, well, that's not that.
Right.
There's no appeal to that. Maybe nothing against, Portland, but it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. So I was in the Japanese program, the JMP through Richmond Mount Tabor grant. That was like it funnels all through, and then I think it goes to U of O now.
Cool.
But it's all a part of that. So we would travel to Japan like in 5th grade, 8th grade, and in high school. And everything.
So you had like a cultural exchange.
Yeah, I was half day was Japanese, half day was English. So I like experienced that, and I remember like as a kid I was like, if I moved anywhere it'd be Japan, and still to this day I'd be like, if I moved anywhere it would be Japan. Besides that, I'm just staying in Portland.
Did you say you've been over there to Japan?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's if you got an offer to go to Japan, you'd be like,
would have been like,
see.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I had a quick question. Are you guys interested in taking your shoe game to another level, but you just don't know where to start? I built a full program just for somebody like you, the 6-Figure Sneakerhead. It's an 8-week program that takes you through all the steps that you need to know. We have a full community where you can engage with everybody else that's going through the same program as you, have monthly live meetups where you can connect with me and other members on the inside, and we set goals for each other and hold each other accountable. Also, we give away a free pair of shoes every single month with different challenges. If this is something that's for you, or you're looking to take your game to the next level, or even flip your sneakers to turn that into real estate, this is the place where you need to be. I can help you with finding loans and remodeling properties and getting yourself on the right path to become a millionaire if that's something that you desire. If this sounds like something for you, hit the link down below in the description and get signed up today. This is more than just sneakers. I want to see people grow and succeed in all aspects of life. Let's get back to the podcast.
Okay, so that all happens. We kind of like pushed through the 90s. The middle, it was everything pretty much covered in that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just to put a bow on it, eventually then we signed Arsenal, we signed Nigeria, we signed PSV Eindhoven, and yeah, we were just growing and growing and establishing great, kind of basically our brand was on fire over there in Europe at the time, between tennis, ACG, running, international, and then, you know, we were making huge strides in the world of global football. And so then eventually I remember being invited to Atlanta to the Super Show. There was going to be a Nike board of directors meeting, and they invited 4 or 5 of us from the European office to come and basically share with the board of directors, like, hey, here's what's going on over there in world of soccer, and showing them you know, all the presentation boards and bringing them up to speed on what we've been doing. And shortly after that, you know, we signed Brazil, USA, Holland, you know, and then eventually, you know, Man United, and on and on and on. So, you know, I just feel good that we kind of set a really good foundation for Nike design, our understanding of translating the club's legacy into amazing uniforms, and they're very directional, different from what other brands were offering at the time. And yeah, the rest is history. We've now we're the big dog. You know? We were the little dog in there, you know, back in the day. So
during that process, you're creating sample jerseys to present to the teams. To then say, hey, these are some things we could do, or whatever it be, or is it kind of like, how's that process go?
Our approach wasn't like a buffet table. It was more like we did all our research, we did all of our months of internal reviews. We got feedback from the club, from the players, from fans, from a lot of people that just knew about the club. So by the time we put together our presentation and landed on our concept, we went in there with one main direction, and we might have a back pocket, a couple of other options off of that, but it wasn't like, well, what do you guys like? What do you want? You know, it was more like, no, we came in there, this is right for you at this point in time. We think this is what is going to be appropriate. And there's the home shirt, here's the away shirt, here's all your training collection, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we'd usually walk in with like a prototype to show them. But I think the first round, it was just sketches and line art. But you know, you had to win them over, and you know, here's some Americans over there, you know, trying to get credibility to show that, yeah, we know what you guys need, even though we're kind of the newbie here in the world of football. Yeah, we went in there with kind of a strong point of view, and yeah, they would accept it over time. So sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board, but
you would be in all those meetings, like those are in the different countries.
Yeah, and you'd have the leadership from the club, so the president, marketing leaders. Depends on just the cast of characters for each club. You know, you go into Dortmund and you'd present it to them and get their feedback and get approval, and then go from there.
That's dope. Okay, so that man, you probably been to so many different games too.
Yeah, I mean that was part of it too. Yeah, because you know,
it's like learning the environment and seeing how the people act and what they're wearing and
because you gotta. I mean, you have to go in there with confidence, but to get that confidence, you have to have done your research. Yeah, you have to go to those pubs in that local city and go to those games and really get an understanding of just the experience of the fans. And but also as a designer, you walk around the city and you'd see the cobblestones or you'd see the trophy cases.
Yeah.
So all of that is gonna just fill your head with things that make you excited to go, oh, I could translate that into a new kit and it'll be legitimate, you know, and that's what we're trying to do, be authentic, be legitimate, and make sure that the fan gets that we understood the assignment. And so, you know, you can maybe do that via the internet, you know, but to be actually in there and go to those games and stuff, that's a critical part of the job.
No, that's very, very important too for a lot of different aspects of life and business and design and all the different elements of that, really like getting in there. I always tell people are like, oh, how do I do this? How do I start that? And I'm like, you got to show up. You got to go and be there. Like sometimes when you feel like you can't afford it or whatever, like it's going to be worth it, because that right there is the part that's going to set you apart from everybody else. When you go there, you see it, you experience it, you understand it. Now you have it on a whole different level. You almost got like a special advantage on everybody at the same time. Yeah,
and especially, I mean, we have the inside track. We're talking to the presidents or the club managers or whatever, you know, this and the same type of thing. Later, when I came back from the States, I was working on college basketball. I worked on Kentucky and Kansas.
Damn, early 2000s?
Yeah, like no, early mid 90s.
Okay.
Late 90s.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So, you know, same process though, and you're going to Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, and you know, it's the hallowed halls and the trophy cases and you know, I think at that time it was like Rafe LaFrenz was and Jacques Vaughn were in Kansas, so maybe before your time. But yeah, I mean, it's damn exciting, you know, because you're just like, oh shit, who else gets to do this? To be able to go behind the scenes and walk in the locker room, and you know, I remember going also to some of the football colleges and seeing you have a bunch of helmets around here, and just seeing their you know, talk to the equipment manager, and they'd, you know, because there's a whole performance aspect where they'd say, you know that shape, the silhouette, the fabric you did the last time, it just didn't didn't hold up, or it got too hot or whatever.
And there's those times where you're like wearing something that's like too restricted on the arm, depending on the position and all that stuff.
I'm the graphic designer guy, so I'm talking about the graphics, but you have an apparel designer and a developer that are making sure it has the right performance fabrications, the right fit, the silhouette, the shape, all those things that are just amazing. And you know, contact sport like football, it's got to be tough as hell, because you're going to get that thing yanked on and grabbed. It's got to be tight fitting, but also hold up over time. So
breathable,
there's that whole aspect of it that's crucial. But anyway, I'll stop blabbering.
Well, like that's like if you try to DTG like on a black garment compared to a white one, the image just looks completely different, right? So like with that creative process, with the design element, with you just creating the graphics or the colors or whatever, you have to also understand the materials and all those other elements too, because that changes your design, that changes your idea, that changes your process. So just like I always tell, like I played receiver in college, I played quarterback in high school, but if you want to be a good receiver, you have to know every other receiver's role. You have to know all their routes. You have to understand the blocking schemes and why things run. Because if you don't, you're going to be running your route on the wrong level, or just 2 yards could change the difference for somebody else's route and create the gap that you don't want. Like all those things are very, very important that, again, people need to understand, because it makes your job better, and it makes it easier for you to then go in and understand what you're doing.
And again, it's a total collaboration with the team, and you know what their role is. You respect what they're bringing to the table. But just to go a little deeper into whether it's a soccer kit or a college football or NFL uniform, I mean, that's a very specific trade you have to learn. And you know, like for a shirt like what I'm wearing, you know, this is sublimated. So this design, it's a white garment, and they use a sublimation process, and it basically, these colors are heat transferred into the material. And then this is like a embroidered patch here with an embroidery. So every different application needs to fit to what the garment's needs are. So, you know, you're talking about an American football uniform, you know, you need some, like if you're going to put a patch on it, it needs to be sturdy, hold up over time. They wash those things hundreds of times,
Right,
that kind of thing. You've seen it. So those are all those things that you learn on the job, and so you're making good decisions. And the last thing you want is for the uniform to fail. As far as you've seen it like the NBA where the jersey gets torn up,
open.
or ripped open,
yeah, the numbers all come off the
or
back
numbers coming off, and all that. So I mean that believe me, you don't want to get the phone call from a Phil or whoever, after that, like what the hell happened? You guys need to get down to this factory and you need to fix that lickety split. So yeah, there's a whole craft and art that you have to learn there.
That's dope. So okay, pushing into now the early 2000s.
Okay.
These is legendary times, mind you. Women's soccer's on fire during this time too.
Yeah.
Like USA.
The 99ers.
They were going crazy.
Yeah,
So
Mia Hamm and
that's just legendary times. I'm thinking like, I played football, but I was still watching that stuff on the TV. Like that was dope to see.
Yep.
There was a documentary out. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. It was like the next gen of women's USA soccer.
Yep.
I can't remember if it was on Netflix or something like that. But it's dope, like seeing the history and just the lineage through them and their success and everything. So with all that, do you have any memorable moments from, I guess, the women's side of USA Soccer and everything like that?
Okay, so here's where my career departed or took a pivot. So they called me back home to the world headquarters. By then the campus was there in 1996. And so I came back and they're like, what do we do with this guy?
You come back, it's like a whole new world.
They didn't know, a lot of what I'd done, or they knew that I did over in Europe that I worked on soccer, but we weren't doing soccer out of the U.S.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, well, what do we do with them? So they ended up having me work on, as I mentioned, uniform design. So I was signed to Kentucky and Kansas.
Okay.
And then about 97, 98, I don't know if you remember, Nike did the whole deal with the Cowboys, which was like, guys have to look it up. It was quite the controversy.
Okay.
Nike working with Jerry Jones and getting a swoosh on the Cowboys. And it was like, again, only Nike would be able to do that.
Okay.
But then eventually we got an agreement with the NFL and we had 8 teams. So we had Jacksonville Jaguars, the Raiders, I think we had the Steelers, the Packers, Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Anyway, so I worked in uniforms there for learning translating what I learned in soccer into NFL. And so I got to work on Jacksonville. We had Chicago Bears. And then my beloved Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders. And so I take a time here to tell a funny Raider story. So I've grown up loving the Raiders, and they were of course the kick-ass belligerent Raiders back in the day.
Yeah.
And they could back it up because they'd won like 3 Super Bowls in the 70s and 80s. But I was so excited. I got assigned to work on the Oakland Raiders, and I was like, oh. And so basically my one idea that I wanted to pitch was to do an all blacked out.
Okay.
Black helmet, black jersey, black pants.
It's like Color Rush before Color Rush.
Basically. All right. So I did a rendering and I sketched this all up, and I was just like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I mean, it's so cool for them. And it'd make a statement for them to go black helmet. Yeah. Okay. So we fly down there, present this to them, and I actually brought my old Raiders helmet that I had as a kid because I want to show them, like, I've been a legit fan.
I know what I'm talking about.
And, yeah. So we had the presentation all ready. We get down there. We get let into the foyer there, and we were met by somebody from the Raiders org that basically said, sorry, you guys are going to have to leave. We can't meet with you. And we were all just like, what? What the hell? What's going on here? And come to find out, Nike had put a Jerry Rice ad in Oakland on a billboard for the Niners near the Oakland Alameda Coliseum or whatever it was. Damn. And of course, with Al Davis, not too happy. He was so pissed about that basically, it hurt a relationship, I think, at the time, and we were escorted out of the building.
You're like, yo, I was about to show him this is about to
So
be fire.
I had my duffel bag, had my Raiders stuff, had my whole presentation, this whole thing. And we were basically then we're like, oh shit, our flight's not till like 5 o'clock. What are we gonna do? So we went to a local restaurant and got drunk.
That is
and sobbed in our beers. But anyway, so that was the whole Raiders thing. And you know, of course, fast forward to the whole color rush thing. Still to this day, the Raiders won't, you know, they won't go away from a white jersey.
I was about to say they did all white, didn't they?
All white.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, they would never do anything like crazy, like an all black, or even change their helmet. Never change their helmet.
Okay, so I have this thing about certain teams, and it makes sense. Like LSU, Alabama, Raiders. Like there's certain teams that's just like...
It's like the Yankees. You wouldn't expect them with a white hat or
it's
something.
just like, you just don't...
No.
It's just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this
It'd be
thing.
cool, though.
Like, it would be great to see, but at the same time, like...
Yeah.
That tradition and not changing that is kind of cool to see at the same time, because there's not that many teams in all these different sports that have the right to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like it. Like, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
It would be fun though to be able to switch it up and do
the
different
Steelers
things, so.
even didn't they do a yellow helmet?
They did. Yeah. But I think they play off of like old helmets too.
Yeah.
And they make it like the light brown to match like the leather
the leather thing,
and stuff. So like they kind of like play off of that a little bit, but they stay pretty traditional for the most part at the same time too. But I don't know. I like how certain teams do that and everything.
Yeah.
Also, that made me think about that. So during this time, like you said, you had X amount of teams in the NFL. There wasn't a rule for the entire league to be under a certain brand at that time in the early 90s.
It was split
or
at
in
that
the
time
90s and the 2000s, right?
between Adidas, Reebok, and us.
So it was everybody had a chance, basically.
8 teams each.
They all got some.
Yeah.
And then it became, do you remember when it became?
Reebok then got the deal in like I think it was around 2001 because
I was about to say it was like early 2000s.
I got laid off, and there's a story there.
Okay, we'll work our way to that one.
So it was split between 3 brands, and then in 2001 Nike or Reebok signed the whole league all the way through like 2011, so they had a 10-year agreement. And then Nike signed it starting then, and that's
you know when they got the contract, like you found out immediately basically.
I mean, because
like
we had a team that had been working on NFL, and you know, I was one, you know, wasn't the whole team, but I was one that just all of a sudden was on the outside looking in, because they, you know, I get the old tap on the shoulder, and after all my career up till then, I guess it didn't count for much, because they basically were like, okay, well, we got to lay you off, and you got HR in the room and giving you your kind of severance agreement, and you're like, okay, and so I'm sitting there packing up my stuff. I got a security guard there watching me.
That's crazy to me.
Like
that's
so
still
fucked up.
So crazy to me. Like that whole process. Like it's just.
I don't know if you've ever.
I've never experienced it. I've just always heard it. Because like I said, I remember I told you before. I worked for my dad in high school. I got fired my junior year, and then I've never worked for anybody besides myself since.
Okay. So learned a lesson from that.
So I told my dad, I was like, I'll never let somebody control my fate, because this is ridiculous. So. That was just me though. But when I see that, I'm like, there's no way you got somebody that's done all this for the brand, that's created all this, that's built something, that's generated all this money, all these different things, and you got the security guard right down your neck, like all this stuff. Like, come on, like, you kidding me?
Packing my office, like, bringing it out to my car, in, you know, just like I'm in shell shocked. I'm like, how in the hell, with all the effort and work and I mean, to pay for me to live in Europe for 6 years. I mean, the investment alone there. But not to mention, you know, all this years of experience walking out the door. But, you know, there's been probably 10 layoffs since then, and we've seen amazing people leave. So,
for sure.
But that was, you know, my personal, just harsh experience of like, you work for a big corporation, and sometimes you just get lost in the shuffle. And our office that I was working out of was off campus at the time, and we were kind of just in our own little world. And so I don't think a lot of the people that I kind of had networked with even knew this layoff was happening. And the next thing I know, I'm escorted out. And it coincided with the NFL deal going over to Reebok. So, I was basically looking for work for about 9 months. And then I ended up getting hired back on there. So
that happens.
Yeah.
That's like a big point in somebody's life.
Hell yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of people go through different struggles. You can call it what you want. At the end of the day, that is a big struggle in somebody's life to have to go through, to cope with, to get back motivated, to feel like there's hope for something else. Especially with income and all the other things that you have established, like all these other elements to it. So in that point, right then, you get home, first day. What are you thinking when you get home?
Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long after I ended up, the sad part of my life. I got laid off after I'd been with the company about 15 years. Ended up getting divorced, unfortunately. In 2001, what else happened in September of 2001?
Man, yeah.
9/11. And so, you know, our world, you know, not only my world, but the whole world pulled out from under us in the United States. And then the economy kind of went crazy because, you know, a lot of of course, you know, the whole figuring out flying and airports and, you know, just the economy just kind of got hit. And so, yeah, I was like scraping, collecting unemployment, trying to just hustle. I applied over at Adidas, which if you work for Nike as long as I did, you never work for Adidas. They're the you know, that hated brand that is our competition. But you know, man's got to put food on the table. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So and I was like, well, you know, almost like F Nike. You know, they didn't you know, see that I was needed to work for them anymore. So see you guys later. But luckily, I didn't get the job at Adidas. And then I had some connections back with Nike and got in as a color designer. And you're talking about early 2000s, so about 2002 in sportswear. At the time, that's when I worked in footwear.
Okay.
So after all these years working in apparel, jumped into footwear, sportswear, and I'm sitting here looking at all these amazing shoes. And what were we doing? We were bringing back Dunks, Air 95s, 97s, Air Force Ones. You know, and as a color designer with graphic design background, it was my job to basically work on bringing these retro vault limited edition shoes to life through color, materials, graphics, and a lot of the stuff that I see here is very recognizable. But I was learning the whole craft of being a designer, working in footwear, learning the parts of the shoe, learning about their whole process, going over to Asia and seeing the factory process and stuff. So, you know, it was like all of a sudden my career just started up again and started cranking. And so I spent the next 3 or 4 years working in sportswear and footwear.
And it's wild because you said it was 9 months.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, a lot definitely happened within that 9 months. But then I always say, like, let's zoom out.
Yeah.
It was 9 months of your life. You got out of it. And you're like, cool. Yep. Some people have to go through 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years. Sometimes it's the rest of their life, whatever it may be, right? So it's. I'm happy for you that we can say it was only 9 months, right?
Yeah.
Like in the moment, it can feel like an eternity.
Every hour, every day.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
well, your whole identity is wrapped up in being a designer at Nike, and that's, you know, putting food on the table, but it's also just who you are. And so suddenly you're not that anymore, and you got to reconcile that in your head. So yeah, it wasn't, definitely not an easy time period. But you know, I had faith, and I was blessed by the group at Nike that brought me back in.
So like you said, having that identity, right?
Yeah.
When you got back, did you kind of like say, hey, I need to find some hobbies or do some new things, or kind of just keep yourself like feeling like I'm doing something else too, and not just being what we may see ourselves as like a one-trick pony or whatever we want to call it? Like, did you start getting into things like that to become later in life, or where
you mean outside of Nike?
Yeah.
You know, I always, in the background, I was always doing paintings and art, and I do, you know, Christmas cards and, you know, and just always doing caricatures and drawing and things like that. But, you know, what's fascinating is, when I got back on there, okay, it's like I'm a designer. All right, now I got to figure out the footwear thing. I didn't mention, but previously I designed headwear, and so learning the art of all the different shapes, silhouettes, fabrics, applications in doing headwear and accessories, and then you jump over into footwear, and so. As a designer, you're just like rubbing your hands together, like, okay, well, I'm ready to learn. The experience humbled me, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna gotta come in here, and I think I was maybe at a lesser level or whatever, but you come in and you're like, all right, they gave me another opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take advantage of it.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. So, like we were saying, legendary times with all these crazy shoes that were being created. So for me, early 2000s, that's like grade school, middle school.
Yeah.
I got to high school in 2006.
Okay.
So for me, vividly remember all these shoes, getting some, couldn't get some others. My foot was growing fast because of the scenario. I couldn't buy all the shoes, but seeing them all, having friends wearing them, all the different scenarios, like it was just great times. Were there any shoes that stood out for you during that time that you're like, this was a fun project to work on, or like, I just feel like I just went crazy with this design, like this is one of my favorite ones, or what?
Boy, I had opportunities to work on a lot of cool projects. At one point I was working, so in sportswear we had Urban, Sports Inspired, Metro, and Indie were the kind of the four collections.
Okay. And
so Metro was a little more European focused. Sports Inspired was more kind of white shoe, classic tennis product.
Okay.
And then what was the other? Urban was more Air Force Ones, Dunks, a lot of our classic basketball shoes. And then Indie was all of our like collabs and connections.
Okay.
Because I worked with like, what was it? Dave's Quality Meats, Okay. So our product manager, Jesse Leva, was kind of the one that was connecting with all of these different, up and coming, the Supremes of the world and the niche retailers that were getting into that sneaker business, mainly on that East Coast, that we call it the I-80, between like Baltimore and New York City and all that. And so, that was just amazing job to be able to go to New York and East Coast and travel around and go and see just how this whole, at the time, it was all starting to take off, this whole limited edition vault product, all that stuff. So I worked on a lot of that. And as a color designer, you're basically each season kind of figuring out what the color palettes are, and then what stories. I mean, these are vehicles for telling stories, Whereas if you're working on the brand new, basketball shoe, the mercurial soccer shoe, whatever, those are like brand new, they're all about innovation and performance. But when you're taking shoes that were designed in the 70s and 80s and 90s, you got to refresh them,
Right.
At one point, we would take shoes like, I think it was about 2005, we really spent a lot of time to recraft the Air Force One because it was at several different factories and, there was inconsistency and it just wasn't holding up as a premium shoe. And, that was the time where they really kind of spent a lot of time make sure the collar was beautifully crafted, all the stitch and turns and all the details were just beautiful. So also we brought laser in. And I think we were the first brand that was really invested in laser, and we had Mr. Cartoon and all this stuff going on. And then
so many crazy shoes,
and then Nike ID became a thing around that time period. So footwear was just like, the whole sportswear area
for sure
going crazy. So I was along for that ride. It was amazing.
The laser stuff. I have a couple random things. This is a little bit not as old. It's tough collecting. When you're collecting, you gotta like be smart with what's gonna fall apart and try to keep some stuff that's nostalgic to you at the same time. But then like I want to wear it still, so I can't keep everything from the past. Like you're like slowly getting rid of stuff. It's like an interesting time, even with the Air Force Ones, because those bags be popping in the inside and the midsole gets all squishy, and you're like, bro, this is so weird. That's dope. So this happens now. Kanye comes into the scene in sportswear a little bit later. Are you still around?
No, by
that
then
time?
I'd moved, so I think it's about 2009 that I was kind of my last year in footwear, and then I moved into operational role working in with the college football and NFL team. That's when the Ducks were starting to just crank. The natties.
Wait, so you was doing that stuff?
So I worked with Todd Van Horn and Paul Sullivan, kind of the key designers.
Yes.
And I mean, that was our heyday, and they were at all the big bowl games at the end of the season. First it was Dennis Dixon, and then it became
those jerseys. Those jerseys are crazy.
So and the helmets, the whole. This metallic helmet, we were working closely with a local guy that was doing the dip of the metallic and stuff. So, I mean, that was our NFL team, basically. That was the team the Ducks that we could basically use as kind of like our petri dish to just experiment.
And go crazy.
And of course, it gets laughed at now, but, like 10 different uniform combinations and all that. But, I mean, it went from like this, school out of Eugene, Oregon to on the map. Like if you're a kid in like New York or Florida, you might buy your local school, but you're a Duck fan too, just because you wanted their shit, right?
Yeah, no, and it's crazy. It's funny because like I've always been a Ducks fan, and I went to college in 2010, 11. That time I was living on the East Coast. So seeing all these like newfound Duck fans, I'm like, bro, what is this? Like, y'all ain't no real Duck fans. And then, like, they started getting the Jordan PEs. Yeah. So then it became, like, all these other people that are, like, Ducks fans now. And I'm like, bro, you wasn't no Duck fan. Like, you just want these Jordans. And you're trying to, like, get this stuff. Like, it was a very interesting time during that. But y'all was going crazy with the uniforms.
Well, like, plus they were backing it up on the field, you know? I mean, God, I mean, they had... From then on, the Chip Kelly era and all that, they were just dominant. They still don't have a natty, but hopefully this year we'll see. But either way, they're on the map, and they shook up the industry basically.
Yeah, especially to be like, because the Oregon Ducks came a long way when it comes to football. If you really want to think about it,
God.
They have come a long way.
From when I went to school there,
they were not good.
It was called the toilet bowl between the Beavs and the Ducks.
Yes, they were not good. They were definitely not nationally recognized in a bright light. So they've definitely come a long way. But it's still so cool to see the development of their jerseys. But I feel like no matter how cool their jerseys are now, like that era that y'all were in, it's probably going to be the most iconic, the best era, maybe ever. Like, I don't know if that's going to be matchable.
No, well, and because I don't think they ever said no to anything. I mean, we'd have a special one for, breast cancer awareness with the pink and the black. Or we'd have the military veterans thing going on in whatever, October.
For the spring game.
And, spring game, you're right, home and away there. Yep. It was like... Anything we wanted to do, it seemed like we could do, dope. And that's so, dope. For a designer, I mean, it's like hard to stop yourself. But anyway, so I didn't design on that. Sorry, I'm banging the microphone.
Oh, you're good.
But I was in a different role doing operations for that team. And so basically figuring out what their budgets are, travel, workloads, recruiting, hiring, just making the team run smoothly. And so all my years in the seat of a designer, now I was kind of helping this group of designers be successful and encouraging and supporting them and making sure they had all the resources they needed. And so we'd be going out. I remember we got to visit LSU game, sit on the field there.
And, the season opener?
I don't remember which game we
game?
saw. It was where they had the white helmet, white uniform. I'd have to look it up again. But, to be on a college football field there, and then also I was in Texas and Austin and seeing them. I think they played West Virginia. And there's Bevo right there. Held back by a couple little ropes, and you're just like, oh my God, if that cow gets loose, oh my God. But anyway, just the whole tailgate thing. So just, it was another amazing experience.
That's dope. That's dope. You have definitely gotten a lot of, especially through sport, like that for me, that just makes me so happy for you, because like I love experiencing dope sporting events, whether it's boxing, soccer, football, you name it, track, like whatever it is. Like it's just always cool seeing athletes compete at a high level in big stages and everything. Like it's like hard to beat that feeling of being in that environment and experiencing the crowd and just taking it all in for a second. Like it's wild. It's wild.
Nothing like it. Yeah.
So okay, that's all happening. What goes next?
We're coming to the end of the journey here.
Okay.
No, but I mean, here we are in 2025. So that was like early 2010s. And then my journey from there moved into global football. So they basically had been doing soccer out of the European office.
Okay.
Apparel for all these years, ever since I left. But at one point in about 2012, I think Nike said, we need to have all soccer together back here in Beaverton. Footwear's here, apparel come over here. And so they invited or encouraged any designers and any team from the soccer team to come over to basically relocate. And so a bunch of them did, and I was doing the operations role and design for that team as they arrived. So it's kind of like a reverse thing that from when I was over there, like 20 years before, and suddenly they're arriving here, and I'm helping them to assimilate to Beaverton, the campus, all of our process. And by the way, OG Drake kind of had a little history with football, global football. And so it didn't hurt that when they arrived, I had some credibility with them. And, they're like, oh, you were the original Nike, soccer designer. And now you're here to kind of help us kind of jump in. So
that's dope.
So I did that for a couple of years. And then the last part of my career, I was director of operations in Blue Ribbon Studio, which is our place. It's like a craft area for designers it's like a maker space.
Okay.
They can screen print, they can sew, they can make their own samples, prototypes, whatever. They can take a class. They can just come over there and just chill and get away from all the madness over.
Okay.
And so we'll have to get you over there at some point. But Blue Ribbon Studio is a great little area for designers to just go and be creative. So I was leading that effort and getting that place set up. And that's where I reconnected with Angela Snow, who was the one that hired me back in '87.
Wow.
And she was running Blue Ribbon Studio and invited me to come over and help her with that investment. So that was kind of the tail end of my career.
So I did have a question. I was thinking about that before we got into that.
Yeah.
You became now like the OG, right? Like you are the OG now.
The old guy.
And these new young designers that's working on jerseys and all this other stuff, like how do you now learn to be on the other side of managing other people's emotions, their schedules, their workflows, like all these other elements, because not everybody functions the same, but they can get the product done in a different way or whatever. So how do you, because I feel like this can apply to not only work, but just like understanding people better and knowing how to work with them better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, the latter half of my career, I was more in operations and I was working with teams and trying to get the best out of them and mentoring young designers. And I think what prepared me for that was throughout my time, even like when they sent me to Europe, I was recruiting, managing, hiring. Not only am I designer, but I had to build the studio over there and bring in young designers from, we want to have some Europeans working there, not a bunch of Americans. So to do that work, and then throughout my career I was always kind of wearing both hats, being creative, but also managing teams and just have that role of encouraging, but also, performance reviews, evaluations. Oh, this person is, struggling, and, do we need to do corrective action? All those things that are like hard things, in any corporate environment, you know, with a situation like Nike, you had to kind of also be able to be tough and give them direction, and they need to follow through, and they shouldn't miss deadlines, and they need to turn in all their stuff on time and all that. So, you know, you learn all those aspects of it as well. And then, so to answer your question, I mean, you know, what you kind of just learn is how to help them be successful and be encouraging and get the most out of them. But there's also some tough love, you know, like especially with, you know, this younger generation where it's all about me, or, you know, can I put this on Instagram, or this, that, and the other. So there's legal stuff like, you know, you don't post anything until it's been published by Nike. And then you also realize that it's like, no, you're not, your name's not going to be on this kind of thing. You know, so there's just a learning curve, I think, for any oncoming designer to just learn what it's like to work for a big corporation, the deadlines, the expectations, and but also, you know, each designer is a unique individual and has their own talent, and so how do you get the most out of them? So that's a lot of what I did in the latter half of my career.
And I think there's like this, like you said, this new generation, like I'm in the middle of it, right? Like being a millennial, I'm 33, I'm seeing both sides. Like I came from like understanding like the whole computer era, and then still understanding back in the day, homies just pulling up with bicycles, and we didn't have phones like that, and we would just be mobbing around the neighborhood, and we wasn't worried about Instagram likes and all that stuff, you know, just, and then, but now worried about that now, like, so seeing all the both sides and everything and trying to find that balance now with the newer generation, or even my generation, I guess you could say, with that is definitely still very hard. And I think like trying to, I don't know how to explain it, but just trying to learn that and navigate both sides, because I feel like there's things of like the older generation, like people want it to be this or that, and I feel like there should be a blend of both. And there's definitely some traditional standards or certain things that may or may not be justifiable now in the current world and state that we're at, but there's also some things that's, like you said, tough love and those other things that are just like necessary. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like you gotta do it. Like, either you gonna get it done or not. Like, I might have to be the one to say it to you at the end of the day. Like,
no, and that's a lot of what we've dealt with, you know, is just kind of helping people understand this is a job job. And so that's good to have those veterans there that, you know, are there to help them understand that. And, you know, it is some tough love, but I think that it's so key. We want them to be successful as individuals, but it's more important the greater good of the company, the brand, everything we stand for is done right and done the right way. We used to have these performance reviews, and it's, okay, did you do the work? Check, you know, but how did you do the work? And so you'd always encounter some people that maybe just would step over everybody, or, you know, just be jerks to work with and stuff. And it's like, that's not going to fly. You gotta. So what I think the culture of Nike was, and I'm grateful for it, is to instill in people that, you know, you got to be a good person, you got to do hard work, you got to show up on time, and, you know, again, check your ego at the door, and you'll have an amazing career here. But, you know, don't start behaving badly and doing crappy stuff to your teammates and all that. So we would definitely be constantly on that, and that was, you know, my job and all of our jobs as leaders to do that.
I feel that. It's just so interesting, like, because I've coached, like, you know, middle school teams and stuff like that, and just different times, and it's just so interesting, seeing it from afar, and like, man, I used to be in your position, and now I'm in this spot, and like, you're learning that now, how to deal with that, and teaching them the stuff, and it's like, maybe you don't know everything, or maybe you feel like you had good experiences, but maybe your advice like works great for you, but doesn't work for them, and they have to find a different way to do it, and you're like trying to help them navigate that at the same time to get to the end goal. It's like definitely a tough process along the way.
Well, you're touching on something that's probably one of the keys to Nike's success is the sport piece, because Phil Knight was a runner, he was coach, Bill Marron was a coach. Many of the Nike employees are former athletes, former coaches, and so there's that crossover of coaching and also having, I mentioned the Adidas thing. I mean, Phil always was like, Adidas was like our arch enemy, but it's more about just the competition. And what's going to make you sharp is having somebody that's in your target or somebody that you just got is going to push you. And so all of those kind of cliches or sports kind of metaphors run through the company, but that's was the secret sauce because whether it's on an individual, whether you worked as an accountant at Nike or in legal or design, whatever the role is, you all subscribe and look at we're there to that culture and that way of doing things. And I think it all comes back to sport.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay, so you want to wrap it up? You feel like
well, I don't know what else there is to say.
Oh, I could always pull out some questions. He got cars. He like to do it. He like to rate. Okay, so we ain't even talk about no food yet. I know you got.
Well, that'll be another one. Well, you never asked how I got the name OG Drake.
Oh yeah. Let's go ahead. Hit me with that one real quick.
That's a playful thing, but this guy named Drake came along, and and my son's huge into hip hop, and he's a big Drake fan. We saw him in concert in Spokane, but then of course there was confusion. Well, I'm Drake too, but anyway, so I was just teasing, and I say, well, I'm the OG Drake. Come on. So anyway, it just become like different now, but that's where that came from. Anyway,
I love it. It's a real OG.
I'm the
OG. Okay, so these are the rapid fire questions that I get all the time.
Okay.
So I always give them to y'all because I get these questions a million times. What's the greatest sneaker of all time?
Oh, I hate being asked my favorite. Well, I mean, maybe a few. I mean, I always like the Jordan 1 and the Jordan 3.
Okay.
I mean, we're amazing. I mean, look at Tinker's stuff. I mean, the Moabs and the cross training shoes. I mean, those kind of rank up there. I would say those are probably the ones that come to mind.
Okay.
For me.
How many pairs of shoes do you have?
Oh boy, too many. I still keep buying them. Probably a couple hundred.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to do a collection video one day.
Yeah, you gotta come by.
Okay, couple hundred. So from your perspective, it's a little bit different, but most people say, what's the most you spent on a pair of shoes? Or what's your most expensive pair of shoes, like valuable wise or whatever?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I was sample size, so I was constantly getting...
That's all you need to say.
all kinds of stuff for free. And I played like in the Nike Basketball Intramural League back in the day. And I'd always be given a fresh pair of Jordans and stuff. But
original Jordans.
Yeah, you would just toss it because you're like, okay, it wore out. I get a fresh pair and stuff, so you didn't even think about it. But anyway,
that's dope.
Yeah, so that's just a whole different culture, way of thinking. But probably the best shoes in my collection, probably the most valuable, are my Oregon Ducks 3s, the player editions.
Okay.
The same pair, white with the duck web foot on the back.
Love those.
See?
Yeah.
Yours look pristine. Mine I've worn the hell out of.
I try to take care of them, but it's tough. I feel like I wear the black ones way more often, so those are kind of
so you got
beat
those
up
too.
a little bit. But
I mean, for me, I'm not a purist as far as a sneakerhead, and so, and again, because I probably have this mentality, like I always got a fresh pair. So I mean, I've worn those a bunch. I even had to change out the laces because they were kind of getting dirty and stuff. But if they were in box, fresh, brand new, I mean, I don't know what.
Either way, that's a grail.
The value of them, but. It's like, no, I wear those to the Ducks games or I wear them wherever because I'm proud of them and they're cool and I'm a Duck fan.
So I got about like 100 jerseys, but I know you for sure have more than me.
Oh, what kind of like?
I got like American all different
football,
sports. Yeah, I got all different sports.
Probably 150 soccer jerseys that I have in my collection.
Yeah, I saw when you called me and you had all of them in the background.
And so I have a couple racks of shoes my jerseys, and many of those are ones I collected back in the 90s. They're ones I worked on, or as being a designer, we'd go and buy different jerseys just for inspiration or reference. And so that's where it started. But now I'm still hitting up eBay.
Do you wear them often? Like,
oh, well, yeah. So I still play soccer over at Nike at lunchtime, and I'm like a legacy retiree, and but still hold my own, score a few goals once in a while. But yeah, so it's my place to showcase the
Pulling
shirts.
out the old
And,
stuff.
yeah,
I
they're
like
always
that.
like, oh, what's he wearing today?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And so, yeah, my collection keeps growing. I'm still hunting on eBay once in a while. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what.
Yeah, what
I
size
do.
you need? You gotta let the people know so they
Yeah.
can send you something.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's gonna do it. You want to shout out your Instagram or any other pages?
Yeah,
you
look for
have?
me. It's D Ramberg on Instagram. Some might say Dramberg, the OG Drake. But yeah, have fun on Instagram. Just
Yes.
you know, because kind of what you're doing. I appreciate you having me on here because I think it's just valuable for everybody, this next generation or anybody that loves sport, loves their team or the brands or whatever, to understand what happened, you know, back in the 90s, back in the 80s, back in the 2000s, you know, to tell the stories, because a lot of the stories never got told,
Right,
you know,
right.
and or the people weren't alive when they were told. Like when our first soccer jerseys were launched, it was just like in a newspaper and maybe a magazine, you know. Nowadays it's all over the internet and
Yeah,
everything. So,
yeah.
so I just think, you know, I try to be an evangelist for Nike, for design, for football, basketball, and just trying to encourage people to get into art, get into design. You know, it's an amazing career. I've had a wonderful journey, and so I'm here to tell about it. It's fun.
That was my last one.
Okay.
Sorry. What does the future look like? What's the plans? Is it? I mean, you traveled a lot, so is it kind of just going back on a different perspective, a different lens of not work lens? Is it getting into golf? Is it going to?
It's funny.
What is it? What's it look like?
It's funny because you know, it's a little bit of a scary when you leave Nike, the mothership, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? What am I going to do now? But this whole other world has opened up. Podcasts. I've had appearances and interviews. I guess, you know, I have a cachet of you know, working in soccer, working for Nike, and so I'm kind of getting tapped a lot to do those kind of things, and also have several design consultant projects that I've been working on. So
cool.
some soccer clubs reach out to me from Europe, and I'm doing some design work for them that's going to be revealed in the coming. One I worked on is going to get revealed, I think, next month, and then some others that are kind of more in the pipeline. So suddenly I'm in demand as a free agent, you know, so I'm having fun just doing that kind of stuff. I'd love to take up golf again, but I sucked at it and gave my clubs away.
I just got back into it, so I'm trying to get better.
One of those sports, so yeah. But yeah, I'm just loving life and love just participating in the culture and having fun.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well,
Thanks,
I appreciate it. If you guys enjoy this, make sure you guys subscribe, download, follow, like, all the buttons that you're supposed to do on whatever platform this is on. And oh yeah, leave 5-star reviews. I like those as well. I think that's gonna do it.
All right. Well, appreciate you having me on.
For sure. Thank you.
All right.